Corporate tools are coming in handy outside of work. According to the New York Times, some people are turning to technology to help manage relationships. Everything from groceries to love languages can be placed into a software and reference whenever necessary. But not everyone is actually fond of this level of relationship organization. So joining us now to help us understand this is Erin Griffith. She's the New York Times reporter who wrote the article. And we should clarify that we're talking about some of these work tools like Slack that people are actually using to communicate with their partners.
There are 5 love languages, though. If you need to write down what your partner's is, you need to address that first.
Yeah, really, exactly. We could talk about the love languages. That's a whole other thing. So let's talk about the tools that are being used. Like, what are people doing?
Yeah. So there are some that are, very well known to people outside of the tech industry, like Google Calendars. A lot of people have shared calendars, but I've found some couples that are also using Slack, which is a kind of chat app, Notion, which is very popular in the tech industry, which is kind of like a souped up Google Docs that has all kinds of kind of workflow options in it. And then Trello, which is a project management software that's probably the most advanced. And yeah, like you said, they're using these to manage their relationships and households as if it is a project, to be managed the way they would in their day jobs.
Okay, so, I didn't recognize some of these apps that you just mentioned. I guess I'm not that techie, but, I feel like that's just one more thing for people to check. But who's using this? Is it techies? Is it everybody? And how do they use it?
Yeah, I found that primarily the people that were the optimizers, as I like to call them, are a lot of millennials. And that makes sense because, millennials are a digital first generation. And as they're becoming parents and their lives are becoming a lot more complicated, they have a lot of things to manage. And so, there's a lot of shared accounts, there's coordination, perhaps between 2 parents. And so there's just kind of like a lot to get to kind of coordinate and work together on. And so part of it is just literally the household management. That's kind of what they're using things for. But then there are other examples like the one that's being shown here where couples are also using it for some of the more kind of intimate parts of their relationship, including, tracking their date nights, trying to be a little bit more intentional about the way they think about their relationship and their goals. And so I thought that was interesting too.
So this is totally my husband's thing. I said at the top of it, he would do something like this, and he actually does, right? When we're talking about our vacations and stuff like that. Oh, what do you want to do? Didn't you get my email? No, because I live with you, and we can have the conversation. But clearly, so if both parties are on the same page, I think it could go a long way. But when one's not into it, then there might be an issue.
On Father's Day, you should get him a mug that says, "Didn't you see my email?"
That is fantastic. So let's talk about the benefits. I mean, the couples who say this works for them, why do they say it works for them?
Well, a lot of times it is, one person is more organized than the other in their relationship. And that organized person maybe is really tired of the less organized person, which would also be me in their relationship, texting them constantly, like, how do we log into our internet? Or, what's your TSA pre number? I'm trying to buy a flight, that kind of thing. So part of it is just like putting it all in one place and being a little bit more organized about things. But I've also talked to people who said, this is actually helping our relationship in ways because otherwise, if we didn't have this, we would be talking about logistics and dealing with administrative stuff all the time when we're in person together. And when I don't have a lot of time, I'm busy. And so when I'm with my significant other, I want that to be quality time where we can tell jokes or watch TV or talk about, the things that we're interested in, not talk about the vacation planning or, who's picking up the kids or who's taking the dog to the vet. And so it's a way to almost like quarantine all the admin stuff into a tech tool and have a system in place for it.
Totally get that. You're on the couch. You just want to watch, binge watch something.
Right.
And instead, you got to deal with this boring stuff over here. So what are some other common aspects of life that people are choosing to deal with over technology?
Well, I found that this tends to start a lot with wedding planning, which, kind of turns everyone into a little bit of a project manager, depending on your wedding. And then it has evolved for a lot of couples beyond that, where they're like, what, the system that we use to organize all of our vendors or all of the, the things that we're dealing with for our wedding, why don't we use this for, the rest of our life too? This actually seems to be helpful for, just like basic logistics as we're talking about. There's, coordinating home repairs, childcare, handling the dog walker, whatever, planning trips, but also, yeah, being perhaps a little bit more intentional about things in their relationship. There was one couple that had a hashtag gratitude channel in their couples Slack where they will sometimes, share positive things with each other. And then it becomes this log of like, oh, look at all these nice things that, my significant other said about me. Yeah.
Yeah, so I can
Sweet.
see that that's really good. And what my husband does do is write down memories a lot to himself, like emails to himself, and then he'll read it to me. And I forgot about that. It's
So just have him read you the Slack channel.
Yeah, so romantic. But there's like a little bit of an ick factor, right, Erin? Like, why do you think it is that for some people, maybe people like me, it just the whole concept kind of just is a bit of a turnoff?
Yeah, and that's what drew me to this story was I saw people talking about this kind of stuff on social media, and then the reaction was so visceral. There were a lot of people who were just horrified by this. And part of it is like, our relationships, our home, like we wanted to keep it kind of the last bastion of non-tech invaded, stuff. We want it to be warm and loving and a place, for where we deal with our emotions, not a place where corporate culture is invading and talking about, performance reviews or getting your expenses reviewed or something like that. So the thing that I think some of the people that are optimizers that I talked to said is like relationships are work, and sometimes we just don't want to admit it, and so this is a way of doing that work. But yeah, it does sometimes have a little bit of I think it turns off a lot of people.
Sometimes old-fashioned's best. All right, Erin Griffith, thanks. Fascinating.
Thank you.